Hey everyone, welcome back. Well, as you can see, we're on the Indian today because I got another box of goodies from Hitchcock's, and fingers crossed this is the last box. So before we go through that, you may notice I'm looking a little bit bristly. It's going to be the new look. Actually, I had a beard for nearly my entire life, but I'm growing a beard again to go with the new svelte look. See, Sean Connery. Although everybody, do you know how many people have said to me I look like Michael Caine? What do you think? I just think I look like my dad. But anyway, so that's just a little bit of news for you. So let's see what we got from Hitchcock's. Oh, before I get to that, cleaned them on the block up. All came up nicely, and I got a rebuild kit for it with all the bits and pieces. I also got battery. Now, I don't know if they have these in the UK like this, but you get the battery, and when you peel the thing off with all the little holes, the acid comes in this thing, and as you can see, it's got 6 little things, and you just get it and you press it on like that, and that pierces them, and you just leave it stuck on like that, and it just goes and fills it, and it's exactly right. Really nice. Okay, so what came from Hitchcock's? Well, I got a piece of rubber that's supposed to go on the carburetor, but so that goes on there like that with a clip, and then at the other end, as I mentioned, the actual air filter for the early model, not the model that had this engine in, is a lot more complicated, i.e. this. So there is this piece that goes inside there, and then that rubber tube goes from there to there. Then apparently the proper filter is unavailable from them, so they supply this one, which is just slightly smaller. Now then, the next thing should be a baffle plate with holes in it and a felt ring. That is unobtainable. So the next thing to go on is that. But what I've found when I put it in is it's shy, about a quarter of an inch. So I guess that baffle would have taken that up. So I'm going to have to make a little piece to go on there. What else did I get? This is the oil filter. You'll see when I get around the other side, when we do the other side of the engine. This nut was, you won't believe it when you see it. I don't know what they'd used a chisel on it, but God, it was awful. The only way I could get it out was I got like the closest size, which is a metric one, and hammered it on until it gripped that, and then used the impact wrench and got it out. So one of them. Then, I lashed out and bought the alternator mounting ring. This surprises me. I mean, as you can see, it's cast, and then there's machining work and everything. Surely it must have been cheaper to change the mould for the inner chain case so that the 3 mounting things were a bit closer in than to make these. But who knows? I mean, the British industry has gone out of business, the bike industry. Just some little bits and pieces. Little eccentric that goes on the the neutral selector. You'll see these closer up when I put them on. That's a little cover and spring that goes on the neutral selector from a different supplier, because Hitchcock's didn't have any. I got some of the exhaust fins. They're just decorative, but they might be slightly bigger for a BSA, but I can always put a little piece inside. That's no problem. I got some new screws for the outer cases, a couple of big oil seals for the chain case that I forgot, and this is the thing for the centre stand spring. And what that does is, goes on that way, there's 2 bolts. I don't know if you're in camera, I'll check. There's 2 bolts, well there's 4 bolts hold the gearbox on. This one goes in there on those 2. But I must have taken it off. Oh no, there it is. I would say that the spring is about, hang about, the spring is just on 6 inches long. The distance it's got to go is 10 inches. Now that strikes me as a bit of a stretch for that spring. To stretch that out another, because it's a really stiff one. But see, that's supposed to go in there. And that in goes on the centre stand. But actually if I hold it there, that's where it goes. I don't know if you can see that. The mounting is on this boss. So it's got to be stretched, I don't know, 3.5 inches, something like that. So we'll have to look into that. Alright, so that's the stuff that came. So let's go around the other side and we'll start over there. Before we get started, let me see if I can show you this, because it was out of sight when I looked at it. You can just see in there, there's the end of the spring where my finger is. Alright, so that's the end of the spring, and there's where it goes. I mean, I know, well, come off, you have to stretch these things, but that seemed a hell of a long way. The other thing I thought I'd show you was that. There's the what remains of, I mean, you know, they battered that so much with a chisel, look, it destroyed one side of it. So anyway, let's get on and do some work. So we're going to start off over here. I put these cases on, which have been nicely cleaned up, and I got all new levers for. I took them off to clean them up and what have you, but I thought I'd leave them off and let you see what's what. So here we've got our crankshaft, and this nut sprocket here has a worm on it to drive the oil pumps. That's just an idler gear, which is on here on an eccentric, and when you swivel this it tensions the chain. So 2 camshafts and drive up here to, in this case, a distributor, but they also, can't remember what years changed over, you could also get them at one time with a magneto. In fact, the first Constellation I had, which I think was a 60, might be wrong, that had a magneto, and then I had a 63 Constellation, this is at home, and that had this distributor, same as this one's got. So we got the various holes there for oilways. This is where the filler neck goes on for the oil tank. There's the oil return, and here's our gearbox. So it's 2 concentric shafts. The inner one is kickstart, the outer one is the gear change, which is why the gear change lever has this huge hole in it. So this has an arm that goes up here to work the oh god, come on Michael, it's not that early in the day, the neutral finder, which goes on there, and when you jig it, you can see it's connected to the gear change shaft, so that goes through to the change plate and everything like that, and when you swivel that, it kicks it into neutral. Okay, so there's no gasket listed for this, and I'm not actually even sure if there's any oil comes into here, to be honest, because I don't know if you can see this sort of boss here is the drain, well, it's the level plug for the gearbox, so it doesn't actually go into here, it goes into the back, and underneath here is something, when we get to it I'll explain it more, but it's the drain. And here you can see there's the filler, but it doesn't come into here to fill it and run through like some gearboxes have. As you can see, it goes through and into the inner part. So let me smear a little bit of gasket sealant on here. This is one that I use here in the States. It's a non-setting one. I don't like gasket compounds that set, because I'm sure, like many of you, I've spent many an unhappy hour even trying to break the joint from gasket cements, which really are cement. They set up and God, do they make the two faces stick. And half the time, the thing that amazes me is they don't even seal. You know, it's with a real sinking heart that you look at a motor you've got to take apart, and there's orange stuff sticking out of all of the joints. Apart from anything else, the thing that always worries me is if there's that much sticking out on the outside, how much is sticking out on the inside, where there might well be, as here for instance, drilled oil ways. But it doesn't worry some people, so... But I'm like that when I hear people driving past in cars and on bikes that are making an awful noise. Whenever I have anything that does that, I daren't take it out. I'm thinking to myself, you know, this is going to wait until I'm a good distance from home and then conk out on me. But I guess their ignorance of what the noise is insurance. If you don't know what it is, perhaps that's the way the world works. You know, if you ignore it, it's not going to affect you. I'm blathering on again, people. Alright, so I should really have put this on before, shouldn't I? This is a bit time consuming for the video. But anyway, now the other thing about here is for the moment I'm going to use the old screws. I've got new screws for everything else, but I'll tell you what, just for these little screws it was unbelievable, the price, and I just couldn't bring myself to pay it. So I will get some of these from my wonderful fastener supplier here in upstate New York. British Tools and Fasteners. I will have these at sensible prices. They're not that bad, but seeing as I've put new ones in all the other ones, I mean this one's bad. But anyway, we'll fasten it up with this. And then when I get the new ones, we'll just replace them. And of course, if you're replacing like this, don't take them all out and then put all the new ones in. Do it one at a time, and then you're not going to take the pressure off the joint. So is this therapeutic then, just watching me screwing these in here? Alright, so I went mad and bought everything for this. I bought a new little one of these, and this really surprised me. I thought they'd sent me the wrong centre bolt, because it's actually a unified coarse thread. I thought, ah God, look, they've just sent me the first 1/4 inch bolt that came to hand. You can see that that's eccentrically mounted, so you can adjust where the lever hits it. But as it turned out, I was wrong, because I had the old one, so I was able to check that, and sure enough it was 1/4 inch UNC. Right, so then we won't put that on because it's probably going to get in the way of that. No, it won't. And anyway, I can always move it round. I won't tighten it. We'll just put these things on so you can see them. Now the neutral selector has several parts to it. That has the square drive in it, so that goes in there like thus. Then you have a washer that goes on, and the washer is there so this big spring that goes on, keeps it tensioned, doesn't catch in anything. Then there's a nice chrome cover, and that goes on there like that. Now at the moment we're in neutral. There we are. And what I won't do is tighten all these things up. That would take too much time. So that's going to go on there. And I'll see that moves, chunk, 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 and then you bonk it down, and so you don't twist things, there's a stop there, so it goes against the stop. All well thought out. And then finally, we have a nice kickstart that goes on. It's got a rubber bumper. Doesn't that look pretty? Okay, so the next thing we'll put on is this. So there is a gasket for this. Let me oil it, grease it up, put the gasket on, and bring you back. Now we'll show you this before I put it on, just as a matter of interest. Look at that. That gasket must be 1/8 of an inch thick, and it's basically cardboard. It's as... Plus, I forgot to tell you, I put a new kickstart spring in there. You remember it used to? No, but now it doesn't. Okay, so let me turn you back off. I suppose I should show you this while I've got it off as well. So here's the inside. There's the worm drive for the pumps, and there's two pumps. There's a feed and a return pump, and it's a quill feed, so it's going through into the end of the crankshaft. And this here is an oil filter. So there's two filters. There's one here that goes in there, so as the oil runs from the oil tank, it goes through this filter and then into the feed for the pump, and it also goes through the filter that's in there, which is a fabric type one. So this goes on like so. And we put bolts in. Now I've zoomed you in here because I'm not a happy camper. Look at this. There's 10 screws go in this. 5 of them have this head, 5 of them have that head. All ordered by part number, and to be quite honest, this Phillip head is crap. This one, the screwdriver goes in nicely. That one, you barely get it tight and it's starting to come out. So I wish I'd never bought the damn things. So what I think I'm going to do is order some Allen headed ones. I mean, they're not right, but anything's better than these. They're really cheesy. Okay, let's move on. The last thing to go on is the oil filler. It's got a paper gasket, and do you know what? I was so annoyed about these screws here. I forgot to put the little, I even got the little fibre washers that go on there. Tiny little fibre washers. So I'll put them on when I get round to putting the newer, nicer case screws in. So that goes in there like that. One short screw at the bottom, and then 2 longer ones. And actually I'd ordered ones for that, and they were these. See, they should be slotted. So I'm glad I didn't order ones for the gearbox, because they probably would have been naff as well. But I'm not even going to use them, because they're the shallow thing. The original ones are still pretty good, and in fact, as I say, I'll probably get... A nice thing about Royal Enfield parts books, like the later BSA ones, is they give you the sizes of all the screws and bolts, so I can just order what I need. And although it won't look as standard as I was trying to get to, although why would I bother when I've painted it the wrong colour, but you know, bummer. We tried to do it right, and fate bites you in the bum. Okay, I'll tighten these up while you're watching, just because we're about finished, and then I'll pull back and give you a nice view of this side. it's got a bayonet type filler. Okay, so let me move you. There now, doesn't that all look nice and shiny? As I say, the kickstart works now. The only other thing on this, let me pass in front of you, is to put an oil filter in. Now I've got a new oil filter, but what I'm going to do is give this, because there's one in here, I'm going to give it a clean out. Then when I first run the engine, I'll just run it with some ordinary oil in, and then take that filter out, drain it all, and put the proper oil in. So, as I say, that's the filter, goes in there. It's like fabric-y, felty sort of stuff. So there you go, that's this side. So we're going to go over the other side, do the ignition switch, and then we'll put the battery in, and we'll put the carburetor on. And actually, you know, I'm going to be able to put the tank on as well, because I've got the thing to go in here. I've put the cross brace on, all I've got to put is that on, and then tighten up our couple of cable ties, and the tank will go on. Very good. Now we'll finish off this side first, I think, before we move around to anything else. So first thing I'll do is I'll put the end cap on here. I put a gasket on, that on. This is just a long through bolt, so see, like that, it almost doesn't want to go on, but it's just that it's off a little. There it goes. Washer, and a nice new nut. Now let's say, after we've flush this through with some oil, we'll take that out, put the new filter in. Right, the other filter, which is the one that filters the oil as it goes from the oil tank through and out this hole here into the oil pump. New fibre washer on that. Put that in. Okay. Now the last thing on engine, or in truth gearbox this side, is we've got to put a plug in here. I'm going to try and bring you in to see underneath the gearbox because I want to show you something here. Now this is the underside of the gearbox. The flickering light, by the way, is because I'm using a little LED thing. I guess the frequency it flickers at must be catching in the 30 frames per second of this. Okay. You see the drain plug there? Why have you never got a paper towel when you need one? This drain plug is so close to the frame that I didn't think I was going to be able to get it back in. As good luck was having, I had it taken out when I was putting the engine in, because I'm not even sure I could have got it in there with the plug in, and I thought I was going to have to make something up. What I was planning to do was actually turn these flats off and then drill and tap this, and then basically when I screw this in with some glue on to seal it in, and then have another smaller drain plug in the centre. But I checked it and it just, I mean, it barely fits in, I think. I'm almost sure I had it screwed in before. There. It's this little part of the frame. You see, I chipped some paint off it before I had to touch it up. Once it's up there, it will go in. I'm not even sure if I can get a... See, you can't get a ring spanner on it. You won't be able to get a socket on. So it's going to be one of these eighth of a turn jobs, I think. Anyway, I just wanted to show you how tight a fit that was in there. And if any of you are having trouble putting the frame around the engine gearbox and it's catching at this end, that might be what it is. You might have to take this plug out, get the engine in, and then put it back in. But anyway, it's gone in now. So now we're going to go up to the cylinder heads and put that brace on, that head steady. Now I'm only going to be able to show you how this goes on and not actually put it on properly, because you see that thread there, it's 7/16 BSF. And you know, I have boxes of nuts and bolts and the British threads, and what have I got? What haven't I got anything left of? You're right, 7/16 BSF nuts. So I will show you how it goes on, because I need 2 nuts. So that goes onto there, like so. Right. Then this little cross piece that you see here goes on that way up onto what would have been 2 studs. Now there was only 1 stud in there, so I could have chased around and got another stud, or they're 5/16 BSF, and I had some 5/16 BSF short Allen bolts. Actually what I use for putting carburetors on the BSAs. So what we should have is a nut on there, then that, then another nut, and when it's all in place, you see, you can tighten those 2 nuts up, and everything is tickety-boo. You know, that really annoyed me. I couldn't believe it when I went to the box and nothing there. Oh, and of course, by the way, the 2 holes in here weren't exactly right, so I had to open them out slightly. And of course, it's been powder coated, so I hate that. So that would go in there, as I say, 1 nut on this end here, and 1 nut on the other side. You lock them up, tighten that up, and we're all done. So let's go, Matt, and put an exhaust pipe on. Here we go with a nice new exhaust pipe. And guess what? Aren't we surprised? It doesn't fit. Tell you what, if you want to know why I gave up on working on British bikes, commercially anyway, it was this sort of thing. You want to put an exhaust pipe on, how long should that take you? 5 minutes, and then God knows how long it is. And I'll tell you, I've already checked this one, what the problem is. And the problem is this. That way, 38.88. That's millimeters, just so happens I'm on millimeters. So remember that, 38.88. This way, 37.10. Bloody manufacturers can't even send an exhaust pipe out that's round. So let me make this round so it fits that round hole, and then we'll go from there. Back again. As luck would have it, instead of having to batter this, I have this nice expanding mandrel thing for making pipes bigger, which was given to me by Steam Shop Dave. So rather than having to tap and tap and tap and try to get that right, I'm going to be able to put that in, turn the nut and expand it out till it gets round. So let me do that. Alright, change of plan. It struck me that if I put the exhaust on, it would make it harder to get the spring on the centre stand. So what we're going to do first is we're going to put this piece on here. So I'm going to take these 2 nuts off and then bolt this on. So here's the problem. Got the spring on. I don't know if you can let me put some light in from this side. There, see, there's the spring. It's virtually, the end of the spring is just here in length, and it's got to go on there. I don't for 1 minute believe it's going to go there. So that's a bugger. It's holding things up again. I've got to give Hitchcock's a call. I don't know if there's a little plate, you know, sometimes they'll have an extra, the spring will go onto a strip of metal to allow it to pivot a bit more. because it's also very close to everything. So I don't know, I might have to make a thing to go from there to, you know, meet halfway, but that, I'll tell you, that spring is not going to stretch all the way down. If I stretch it all the way down to there, the spring will be useless. So let's think of something else to do. Well, I added up how much I've videoed, and we've got near enough 30 minutes. So what I'm going to do is just put the pipe and silencer on this side, just see what it looks like, just for a bit of deftness. And actually, I've already discovered something. When I got the frame and everything, it had spacing pieces on here. So I just made up some nice aluminium ones. Well, it turns out that the reason this bolt is so long, as maybe you Enfield aficionados will know, is rather than just a bracket, it's got a big tube there. So that, actually it's a bit longer than the spacer I made, so we will see what happens when we put all that on. So okay, I got this round, and actually fortunately, oh, and I did something earlier that I hate. When I was talking about the exhaust pipe, I said expand out. Where else are you going to expand it? Anyway, this is 1.5 inches. This end is 1 3/4, which you can see they've sleeved. So fortunately, the BSA pipes twins are 1.5 inches. Did I say 1 1/4 here? 1.5 inches, 1 3/4. Anyway, so the fin thing fit on perfectly. So that's going to go on there like thus. Goes in there. Just to go on a little bit more, I'll have to ease that when I take it back off. This goes on the bolt down here. Stick that through there just to hold it. That of course will go up there like that. I bought these with bolts, and look at them there. Again, pretty poor, like a Phillips head screw. So that looks alright. Then this part, and of course I've realised I forgot to buy clamps for here, so let's get clamps. That goes on there like thus, and that goes in there. It doesn't come out the other side. I wonder if that's supposed to be threaded and somebody had wrecked it. I'll have to look inside there. I wonder if that's supposed to screw on. If so, I'll have to think something. But anyway, that doesn't half look bad, does it? Let's just move you around a little bit. And I'll pull you out a bit more. No. But, wait, it's starting to look like a bike. So that will do you for this week. By next week, hopefully I'll have that spring sorted out. And, you know, Hitchcock's pretty quick. If there's another piece goes on there, or if it's just a little plate, as I say, I'll make one. I might even make one anyway, just to, you know. So we'll get the spring on, we'll get the exhaust on right. Then we'll definitely move to the other side, do the wiring, put the battery on. Oh, and I'll rebuild the monoblock carb, put that on. And once I've got the carb on and the throttle cable on, then I can actually put the tank on. I mean, we're getting on towards the very last little bits. So, as per usual, people, I will press on and do stuff, and you enjoy yourselves.